The Sports Renegades podcast on SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back to the Sports Renegades here on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I guess now it's time to make our picks for the week and recap what happened last week, which seemed like it was another subpar week for our guessing.
Yeah, I'll do that in just a second here. I wanted to give a score update on the games that are going on right now. The Falcons and Saints are just underway. The Blackhawks are losing to the Capitals 2-0 in the second period. And the Mets have a early 1-0 lead over the Dodgers. And that was a Daniel Murphy tripled to deep center, and Granderson scored.
He's having a fantastic series. And, I mean, the thing is, in that kind of game, the score could end up being 1-0.
Yeah, it certainly could be.
Are the Mets still batting, or is the inning over?
No, it's in the bottom of the first now.
Oh, okay.
And, we'll get the music queued up right now for the picks. And let me just put it in a couple more times. There we go.
Or a lot more times.
Yeah, more like 8 or 9 more times. We'll get going right now.
So how did we do last week? Or how bad did we do?
Last week we didn't pick as many games correctly.
There was only 14 games instead of the 16.
Yeah.
16, so it makes it sound a little better.
Yeah, I won 8-7.
Oh, really? I ended up getting 7 right.
I won 8-7 because the Steelers won at the end of the game there, and I picked the Steelers and you picked your San Diego Chargers.
Oh my God! Wasn't that like one of the? That was such an awful way to lose, man. That really pissed me off. Like, come on, Phillip Rivers destroyed the Steelers.
I didn't know you felt that way.
I like the Chargers. I like Phillip Rivers. I like Antonio Gates. I like Keenan Allen. I remember on the way back from the Cub game, I checked the score. I'm like, the Chargers are. This game's probably going to go to overtime because the Chargers were up 3-0. Le'Veon Bell scores on a touchdown with no time left. And he should have been tackled.
Here's where we went wrong. Last Thursday, I picked the Colts and you picked Houston, so I gained an early point on you there. We both picked Kansas City. That didn't end up happening. We both picked Seattle. That didn't end up happening. We both picked Atlanta. They had a nice
that one wasn't looking good for a while.
No. We both picked Jacksonville, and that didn't work out too well.
Who'd Jacksonville play?
Tampa Bay.
Oh, yeah, well, we kind of had to pick
we both picked the Saints, and they got blown out by the Eagles. Baltimore and Cleveland, you gained a point back on that.
I assume I picked the Browns.
You picked the Browns.
See, it's Mark Trestman as to why the Ravens are losing.
And then you were beating me, because I picked St. Louis, and you picked Green Bay. But the game right after that, the Buffalo, Bills, and Titans, I picked Buffalo, and they ended up winning. I think 14-13 was the final score.
It was.
For those 3 o'clock starts, we got all those right. Arizona over Detroit, New England over Dallas, Denver over Oakland. We both picked the Sunday night game right. The Giants over the 49ers. That was a very exciting game, too, at the end. And, the Monday night game was what it all came down to, and I picked the Steelers, you picked the Chargers, so that's how I won 8-7. So, not, normally we're like in the 12th correct pick range, something like that. We were a little off our game last week. We'll get back.
It's not as bad as what was it, week 2 when I beat you 5-2.
Yeah, that was embarrassing.
I remember
that was embarrassing.
My friend's dad is in an actual pool where you pick your teams and then you put a certain amount of points by how much you think they're gonna win.
Yeah,
and the game you think that's gonna be the easiest. The easiest to pick, you'd give them the 16 points if there's 8 games, or the 14 points for the 7 game weeks. And I asked him how it went that week, and he's like, ugh, brutal.
Yeah, everyone did bad because all the bad teams won that week. All right, so this is NFL Week 6. Here we go. The game that's just starting, Atlanta and New Orleans.
Atlanta.
I'm going with Atlanta as well. Matt Ryan is too good.
He wasn't that good last week. He was actually very bad. Actually,
well, he still threw for a lot of yards, but he
only 275, no touchdowns.
He definitely did. I think he'll get back on track this game. I think it's at the Saints, so it could be a close game. The Saints play much better at home than they do away, but I'm still sticking with Atlanta. Devontae Freeman's my dude, and he was a great fantasy pickup for me. All right, Washington at the New York Jets.
Jets.
You're going with the Jets, Jets.
Todd Bowles has done a remarkable job with that team.
I'm going with the Jets as well. I think they'll make some big plays in this game. Washington's defense is pretty good, but I still think the Jets have a good chance of winning this game. This could be low scoring. Arizona at Pittsburgh.
Arizona. Bruce Arians, one of the best coaches in the NFL. I'm sure the Colts are mad that he got away. And Bill Emery, you should be ashamed that you wouldn't hire him. And you should be even more ashamed that you would hire Mark Trestman.
With no Ben Roethlisberger and a Michael Vick who's been up and down, I'm going to stick with Arizona as well.
Now, the thing that's pissing me off right now is that in the fantasy leagues that I have Antonio Brown, there's nothing I can do because Michael Vick sucks.
Yeah, I'm still going to go with Arizona too. I agree with you there. He's not throwing it to anybody.
He's bad. He's just not good. And the throws to Brown are like awful. Like Antonio Brown can catch almost anything.
Yeah, I'm sure they can't wait for Roethlisberger to come back, which I think a few weeks away from the possibility.
It might be next week as long as they're not on a bye next week because he was listed as doubtful this week.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Arizona, though. I think Carson Palmer continues his stretch of being a top 5 quarterback right now. I mean, really.
He's been great. Bruce Arians has done a wonderful job with that team.
Kansas City at Minnesota. Boy, Kansas City just lost to Jamal Charles for the rest of the season on a Derrick Rose injury. And
I honestly think that you got to go with the Vikings here, sadly, because right now the Bears are in a pretty good position to get the second wild card spot in the NFC because their schedule is not good, and there are not any good records in the NFC.
Right. I'm going with Minnesota. I just think it's pretty easy to beat an Alex Smith team that can't run the ball.
Right, that's the key, an Alex Smith team that can't run.
Yeah, they'll be in a heap of trouble for the rest of the season. I'm just going with the Vikings. The Vikings are still a pretty good team, I think. Cincinnati at Buffalo. This is a tougher matchup. Cincinnati is undefeated this year.
I'm going with Cincinnati. Tyrod Taylor might not play for the Bills this week, and he's been really good for them this year.
I'm going with Cincinnati, too. Boy, we don't have any... We don't have a different pick yet. I'm going with Cincinnati. Andy Dalton's on a different level this year. He's looked really good. He has those weapons with A.J. Green and just everybody else. He has two good running backs in Giovanni Bernard and Jeremy Hill.
Marvin Jones is back and healthy. Tyler Eifert at the tight end position.
Tyler Eifert's been great.
Mm-hmm. He looks like a legit NFL tight end. And an important thing with that is, to keep in mind is Andy Dalton usually to mid-season to the end of the year is when he goes on his bad streaks, except last year he was kind of bad the whole year. And there's a guy, one of my friends in one of my fantasy leagues has Dalton and Aaron Rodgers, and Dalton's been better than Aaron Rodgers every week this year.
Yeah, he's throwing the ball really good, and we're both going with Cincinnati. We'll do the Bears last. Denver at Cleveland.
Denver. They might be one of the worst undefeated teams in NFL history. They do not look good at all, except I think they're going to beat. I think they can beat the Browns.
I'm going with Denver as well, but I'm really tempted to go with Cleveland, but I'm going to stick with Denver.
Josh McCown has been playing out of his mind too.
Josh McCown's been playing well. I agree, and I think this is going to be a close game, just sort of like how Denver sort of had a win at the end against Oakland. I think the same thing could happen here against Cleveland.
Yeah, Peyton Manning is really showing his age this year. Maybe it's the system. He doesn't have Julius Thomas anymore. He doesn't really have a tight end to go to. The run game has been really bad. C.J. Anderson and Ronnie Hillman have not been good. Demarius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders are really the only ones that are showing up, and the offensive line has not been good.
These next 4 games, we're going to have a difference of opinion, I can guarantee it. Houston at Jacksonville.
You might be right, when you hear that. I think I'm going to have to go with Jacksonville.
I'm going with Houston. They played the Colts pretty well last week, even though they ended up losing. They played them pretty well. I just think they have more weapons than Jacksonville, although Blake Bortles played pretty well.
He did.
So you're going with Jacksonville, though. I'm going to go with Houston. I'm going to make it different here. I think they could win on the road at Jacksonville. Miami at Tennessee.
Tennessee. Miami just fired their coach, their defensive coordinator. I think every player is going to be out of sync next week for them.
They are coming off a bye week. I'm going to go with Miami because they're coming off of a bye week. They're traveling to Tennessee. It's not that far. I think Miami, I hope, at least fantasy-wise, although I'm not starting any of these people, I hope that Jarvis Landry and Lamar Miller can get involved a little bit better.
Lamar Miller has been, invisible this year.
Oh, yeah.
And he was so good last year.
That's why I picked up Devontae Freeman. I definitely think Miami will win this game, but you're going to stick with Marcus Mariota in Tennessee. So we'll see what happens, because that's going to be the bad game of the week, because it's going to be close throughout it.
Usually that's the type of game that a Thursday night, type of teams Thursday night is against.
Carolina at Seattle. This is a tough one.
This is probably going to be the toughest one to pick all week. That is so tough. Carolina's undefeated. I don't think they are that they're as good. Or they're good enough to be an undefeated team. I think Seattle gets the win.
I think Seattle gets the win just because their defense is so good. And
they'll have to contain Cam Newton, though.
And Seattle is in desperate need of a win, and I think they're going to get it against Carolina. But this is going to be another one close throughout, but I think Seattle, because of their defense, I think they'll prevail. San Diego at Green Bay.
I'm going with the Chargers. Going into Green Bay with the win. After coming off an awful loss last week, they need a win.
I am going with Green Bay. I picked against them last week against St. Louis, but St. Louis came back to earth. And
honestly, I really feel like that Green Bay is going to... Actually, I'm going to change my pick. I'm going with Green Bay. I just realized how outrageous that sounded, team going into Green Bay.
I know you're a little Chargers fan. You always want to pick them.
Yeah, I'm a little homer-friendly when it comes to the Chargers.
I mean, with Green Bay, it's just it's too hard to pick against them. I picked against them once.
If it was in San Diego, I'd go with San Diego, except that it's really tough.
Yeah, so we're both going to stick with Green Bay there. Baltimore at San Francisco. This is a tough one, too. Super Bowl matchup from 2 years ago.
Yeah. That's really tough. I'm going to go with Baltimore. I do not like San Francisco. I think Colin Kaepernick might be the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. And as bad as
he has to be. I mean, either him or Stafford.
Yeah, him or Stafford. And as much as I hate Mark Trestman, I think his team's going to squeak out a really low-scoring win.
Baltimore needs a win after that horrible overtime loss to Cincinnati. They're in desperate need of a win, and I think they get it. Even though they're not making the playoffs this year, but I think they will win as well. New England at the Colts. This is a Sunday night game. Yeah, I know, and this
Tom
one is
Brady
tough for me.
Playing well enough that the Patriots could go undefeated this year.
It looks like Andrew Luck will play in this game.
He has been. Yeah, the one thing about him is he's been awful against the Patriots in his career.
He has been. I really don't know who to pick. I think I'm going to go with Indianapolis just to make it a difference. But not only that, I think they could win. I think they could pull out a win. If Andrew Luck is playing, that gets more people involved, like Dante Moncrief and T.Y. Hilton, who haven't been involved the last few weeks.
Kobe Fleener gets more involved when Luck's playing.
Yeah.
Just because they both went to Stanford.
And I mean, is the Patriots' defense really that good? I mean, I know their offense is off the charts.
It's more of the scheme is good rather than they actually have elite players on defense. Bill Belichick has a really good scheme there.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Colts. I feel like they can win this game. The division is still up for grabs, and it's really theirs for the taking, but I think they can win. And
they go undefeated, I'm pretty sure the division is theirs.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean,
I mean,
with a division like Houston, Tennessee, and Jacksonville, is that the other team in their division?
Oh, I was talking about the Patriots.
Yeah, well, the Patriots, too.
The Colts, I don't know how they don't win their division with. Yeah, Jacksonville, Tennessee, and the Texans.
Yeah, it's pretty impossible. And the Patriots do have a pretty darn easy division with
the Jets are playing. Yeah, the Jets and Bills are playing well, though.
Yeah, Jets, Bills, and Dolphins are in that division. So, yeah, it's going to be tough, but I'm going with the Colts. You're going to go with the Patriots. Monday night game is Giants at the Eagles.
Giants.
I agree.
I just don't think the Eagles are very good.
Giants are on a hell of a roll now. Eli Manning's play well. I've always liked Eli Manning. And, yeah, I think they're going to win.
Odell Beckham Jr. showed up last week, except he injured his hamstring.
Yeah, he did injure his hamstring. I think he's currently questionable, which could hurt my fantasy team if he doesn't end up playing. All right, the final game, the Bears at the Lions. The Lions are 3-point favorites right now. Can you believe that?
I can't believe it. I think the Bears are winning. Honestly, I really do think the Bears are going to win. Jeffrey might be back. Jay Cutler might actually have people to throw to this week.
Yeah, could you imagine if he had an Eddie